At Yangshan Base, Xiao Honglian was sitting in her office and thinking about Zhang Yi. I don't know if Zhang Yi has found out anything, and I really don't know why he wants to look at information about Yuan Kongye and Zhang Yixian. Suddenly, she received the news from the investigation team. She jumped up from her chair. She was stunned. "Didn't you say that the zombie problem has been solved? Why are you here again suddenly? Now, do you want to seek refuge here?" Meng Siyu said. "There's no time to explain. We'll talk about it when we get there." Xiao Honglian instinctively wanted to refuse, but when she thought of the Jiangnan region behind the investigation team, she could only grit her teeth and rushed out of the office with an angry look on her face. At this time, the Yangshan base had resumed production, and the chimneys of the refinery were emitting black smoke. Xiao Honglian called Zhuge Qingting over and shouted at him, "Notify everyone now and go back to the shelter immediately. A large-scale corpse tide is coming soon. Let them hide quickly." Zhuge Qingting was stunned for a moment. "Corpse tide?" Xiao Honglian said impatiently, "There is no time to explain to you anyway. Do it now, quickly." From Xiao Honglian's urgent tone, Zhuge Qingting saw the urgency of the situation and did not dare to ask any more questions. He hurried to the propaganda room to use the radio to notify everyone in the refinery and immediately retreated to the underground shelter. At the same time, Xiao Honglian herself took the guards to maintain order and prepare to receive the arrival of the investigation team. The refinery was in a panic and quickly put down the work in their hands and moved to the underground shelter. Fortunately, Zhuge Qingting was also very smart. He did not tell the people in the factory that the corpse tide was coming again, so there was no panic. As for other forces, they also received the news at the same time. Wei Dinghai looked bitter. "Ah, again? When will this end?" He was on a ship at this time, and he was even a little hesitant in his heart, wondering whether he should abandon this place with his men and flee to another place. But thinking about it carefully, this idea is not practical. There are not many ports where their large ships can dock. Other regions also have their own forces. If they leave here, they will have to go to war with local forces in other places. With their current strength, doing so is equivalent to seeking death. Wei Dinghai gritted his teeth. "Damn it, I have to do it!" Wei Dinghai and Xing Tian quickly gave a reply, saying that they would bring people to help solve the problem. They had to help. Once the investigation team got into trouble, I am afraid that the Jiangnan district would determine that the zombie problem in Tianhai City was difficult to solve. At that time, the god of death of love would descend from the sky, and everyone would face destruction. Even if they could hide in the shelters and refuges, they would not be able to come out within 20 years, and their supplies simply can't last that long. It's better to take a gamble and join hands with the investigation team to deal with the zombie crisis. At the shelter. After Zhang Yi received the news, he responded calmly at the first time. "We'll be there soon." After learning that Bian Junwu and others had fled to Yangshan Base, Zhang Yi had another plan in his mind. He didn't want Bian Junwu and others to die, or for them to destroy the zombie tide. Because only Zhang Yi knew that behind all this, the people of Snow Worship Cult were conspiring. Therefore, only by getting rid of Yuan Kongye can all this come to an end, and Bian Junwu's power is indispensable. Zhang Yi stood up from the sofa and began to change his combat uniform. Then he checked all the equipment on his body. After doing all this, he called Liang Yue, Uncle Yu, and others over and asked them to go with him to help the investigation team out. Although everyone was prepared, no one expected things to develop so quickly. Zhang Yi had just returned from Snow Worship Cult not long ago, and he was about to face a new round of turmoil. "Don't worry too much. Everyone should stay close to me. Once you find something wrong, you can use my two-dimensional doors to quickly travel through space. We will flee the battlefield and return to the shelter as soon as possible," Zhang Yi said to Fatty Shu and others. This is a shot of cardiotonic for them to prevent them from being affected by the zombie tide. The eyes of several people are indeed much more reassuring. Following a captain with top-notch life-saving methods, the sense of security in the heart is full. It doesn't matter whether we win or not. The most important thing is that we don't die. So several people began to wear equipment. Joe Keir said, I'll go with you too." At the same time, Zhang Yi said to Zhou Ke and others, "Don't be idle at home. Put the most important things on you in order and pack them up in the living room. If there is any accident over there, we will come to pick you up as soon as possible. Don't bring too much things. We don't lack other things. Each person can only have one package at most, remember?" Several women in the family showed worried looks on their faces, and Zhou Haimei said, "Then let's go and pack them up." Yang Xinxin looked calm. She didn't have anything special to bring, nothing more than a laptop. "Brother, don't forget, that's our only chance." She pointed a finger at Zhang Yi and reminded him. Zhang Yi nodded slowly. "I understand." Before they could say goodbye, Zhang Yi and his men put on their equipment and set off to assist the investigation team at Yangsheng Base. Zhang Yi put his hand on Zhou Ke's head and said, "We are leaving. Please remember to prepare everything and wait for us in the living room." Zhou Ke stood at the door and watched them leave, feeling powerless. Until now, except for Zhang Yi and Yang Xinxin, no one else understood how big the crisis they were facing this time. At Snow Worship Cult. When Zheng Yixian saw the message, his brows furrowed deeply. He crossed the ruins and came to the cathedral where he found Yuan Kongye praying. "Something happened," Zheng Yixian said directly. Yuan Kongye slowly opened her eyes and turned to look at Zheng Yixian. There was a wave of light in his cold eyes, with a touch of indifference that was not like that of a human, and piety to the gods. Zheng Yixian said word by word, "The matter in Aoshan district was discovered by the investigation team of Jiangnan district." When Yuan Kongye heard this, a touch of emotion appeared on her face. Jiangnan district. These 4 words are very deterrent to her. At least now, it is not an existence she is willing to face. Didn't they leave Tianhai City? Why did they appear in Aoshan? Aoshan district is very remote. After the end of the world, there was no one living there soon. It was almost a dead place. When the zombie crisis broke out, there was no zombie group active there. Therefore, they chose Aoshan district as the place to hide the zombie group. Even if the investigation team is very careful, they can't search the huge Tianhai City. That's why Yuan Kongye felt surprised. Zheng Yixian shook his head. "I don't know either. Logically speaking, even if they are searching, they will search around the 5 major forces. After all, these places are the most densely populated. So this is not good news." Yuan Kongye frowned slightly, not understanding whether all this was a coincidence or someone did it on purpose. Zheng Yixian said, "Now the zombies have been alarmed and started to attack the investigation team. They asked us to go over for support and have fled to the Yangsheng shelter." Yuan Kongye looked up at him. "Could this be a trap? A trap to lure us over and then annihilate them in one fell swoop?" Zheng Yixian was also unable to confirm. He said, "Only the blood vine can communicate with the white corpses. The information I got is that the zombies have indeed been disturbed." Yuan Kongye was silent. She lowered her head and thought, "Now the remaining forces in Tianhai City are not enough to compete with me. But I am afraid of the power of those people in Jiangnan district, especially the power of Bianjunwu. The terrible power that destroys everything in sight. Even Yuan Kongye is deeply afraid of it now, but also covet it. This may be the reason why she gave Bingpo to Bianjunwu. She absorbed 36 kinds of superpowers, but none of them can reach 1/10 of destruction. If we don't go, it will arouse their suspicion, right?" Yuan Kongye said lightly. Zheng Yixian thought about it and nodded in agreement. "You are right. We should go there. But I only need to go there. You stay here. Even if there is an accident, you are fine." He looked at Yuan Kongye's cold face, and his eyes revealed an unconcealable warmth. That was a love that could not be expressed directly, but was deeply hidden in the heart. Yuan Kongye did not reject Zheng Yixian's proposal. Even though she knew that this might be a trap, compared to her great wish, no one was not expendable. Yuan Kongye walked over and gently hugged Zheng Yixian's body. "Only you treat me the best." A few minutes later, Yuan Kongye returned and prayed, "It doesn't matter who sacrifices. As long as I'm safe, you will understand me, right?" Zheng Yixian left the church. He summoned the few remaining priests and fathers of the snow worship sect. After briefly explaining the current situation, he began to call the generals. Han Chang, Wu Huan, Li Qian, Dai Mei, come with me to Yangsheng Base for assistance. At Yangsheng Base, Bian Junwu and 7 other people rode on a snowmobile and quickly arrived here. Xiao Honglian had quickly arranged for everyone to hide in the shelter. She was waiting outside with some soldiers for the investigation team. From a distance, they saw the raging snowstorm on the snowfield, surging from the end of the horizon. They had never seen such a scene before. Even though they had fought against the zombie tide before, the zombie tide they encountered had never been as violent as today. Damn it! What kind of thing did they provoke? Xiao Honglian's face also showed a look of fear. With their remaining combat power, it is absolutely impossible to deal with such a huge zombie tide. The black snowmobile drove into the Yangsheng base, and Xiao Honglian immediately led people to run over and shouted, "Quick, come here!" The car immediately drove in the direction indicated by Xiao Honglian. The car did not stop, and the door was already opened. Bian Junwu, Baili Changqing, and Kong Sheng jumped down with weapons in their hands. "Hide in the shelter quickly! The zombies behind are too big!" Xiao Honglian and the others had already seen it without them having to explain. The zombies followed closely, covering the sky and the earth, and covering all the space around the refinery with black. Xiao Honglian's heart was as painful as a knife. Her refinery was completely finished. Once the battlefield was determined to be here, the entire refinery would definitely be destroyed. But now was not the time to say such things. "Hurry up, we must hide immediately." Xiao Honglian could not think of resisting at all. Fighting against this scale of zombies was simply courting death. Everyone raised their guns and killed some of the zombies in the front, and then quickly retreated. At the entrance of the shelter, several soldiers guarded the gate and shouted loudly, "Hurry, come in!" Meng Siyu drove a snowmobile into the shelter, and then Bian Junwu and several others cleared some of the zombies that followed and quickly jumped into the gate. Xiao Honglian gave an order to close the extremely heavy door of the shelter. It was a door made of 7 thick alloys. Once it was closed, no matter how large the zombie tide was, it would be impossible to break through. Not long after everyone hid in the shelter, the land was completely occupied by the zombie tide. They smelled the breath of the living, so they kept roaring and howling in the sky and desperately attacked the door. All this could be seen through the surveillance inside the shelter. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Bian Junwu noticed that Xiao Honglian's face was very ugly. After all, the base that she had worked so hard to build for so long was destroyed in an instant. How could she be happy? Bian Junwu said to her, "I have notified Zhang Yi, Xingtian, Wei Dinghai, and the people of the snow worship sect. They will bring people soon come to help. Then we will work together inside and outside to get rid of the zombie tide outside." Xiao Honglian turned around and walked towards the center console. But judging from the scale of the zombie tide outside, it is no less than the level we faced in the snow worship sect that day. But now our combat effectiveness is less than half of what it was before. How to fight? Can't you apply for support from the Jiangnan region? Xiao Honglian stared at Bian Junwu and asked with a serious expression. Bian Junwu replied, "It's not that easy to transfer people from the Jiangnan region. Basically, each investigation team has a task. In fact, Bian Junwu and his investigation team are already one of the best combat forces in the Jiangnan region. Even the problems they can't solve are not things that can be solved by transferring other teams, unless a large force is mobilized to come and annihilate the zombie tide. But to do so, it is necessary to get instructions from the highest level of the Jiangnan region, which is much more troublesome." "What should I do?" Xiao Honglian closed her eyes, her tone somewhat helpless. Did she blame the investigation team? There seemed to be no reason to blame them. The zombie crisis itself was a problem that Tianhai City had to face on its own. Even if the investigation team did not come, they would have to solve these problems sooner or later. So she could not complain about them coming to help. She just felt a little sad. Meng Siyu turned on the computer and quickly obtained the picture outside the shelter through the satellite system. This is the situation outside. Bian Junwu, Xiao Honglian, and others came to the computer to check the scene outside. Looking down from a high altitude, the entire refinery has been completely occupied by dense swarms of zombies. That feeling is like a farmland full of locusts. People with intensive phobia will have an attack of the disease just by looking at it. Well, now none of us can get out. Xiao Honglian hugged her arms and sighed helplessly. Yangsheng Base was completely engulfed by the zombie tide. They were roaring and gathering outside the underground shelter of Yangsheng Base. They used various methods to attack the gate of the shelter. Fortunately, this was a military base prepared for war. Even if they attacked with missiles, they had to go through multiple rounds of bombing. With the simple offensive means of these zombies, they could not pose a threat at all. This gave the people in the shelter a chance to breathe a sigh of relief. However, judging from the current situation, it would be too difficult to get out of the shelter. Although the investigation team was composed of elite soldiers, they could only deal with tens of thousands of zombies at most. However, there were hundreds of thousands of zombies outside, and there were a large number of bronze-armored zombies with combat power comparable to that of mutants, as well as bronze-armored flying zombies that could fly. Together, they would definitely not be able to defeat these things. Bian Junwoo frowned tightly, and he suddenly covered his mouth and coughed violently. "Boss! Captain, are you okay?" The subordinates next to him looked at Bian Junwoo with concern. Bian Junwoo waved his hand. "It's okay, ahem! Now it seems that we have to rely on outside forces." A smile suddenly appeared on the corner of his mouth, although the blood on the corner of his mouth had not been wiped clean. "Now that they are gathered together, we can apply to the headquarters for airstrike support." Xiao Honglian was refreshed. "Do you mean that we can let the Jiangnan district launch missiles here? Nothing is more useful than that thing. Hundreds of thousands of zombies gathered outside, and a missile can clear a large area of zombies." Bian Junwoo nodded. "At this point, this is the only way.